Chapter 12: A Shortcut to Improving Domineering Power. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The dungeon was a place where the Uchiha clan members were imprisoned, and it was heavily guarded, but Chu Yang was still qualified to enter and exit the place freely, because the news that he became the direct disciple of Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobarama had long spread throughout the Senju clan. At this time, Chu Yang's status was no longer the same as before. Therefore, when he entered the dungeon, the guards only asked him a routine question. They even arranged for the elites of the clan to protect Chu Yang. However, before Chu Yang entered the dungeon, the guards still specifically reminded him, "Don't endanger the lives of these captives. Some of them are used to exchange for the Senju clan members." As the war continued, both sides had captives, and in the end, a negotiation was inevitable. The experiment that Chu Yang was going to do would not endanger the safety of these people. On the contrary, he himself would be a little more dangerous. Chu Yang agreed and entered the dungeon. The Uchiha clan members who heard the noise turned their heads towards Chu Yang. Chu Yang only saw at this time that their eyes were entangled by the spell of sealing. The Senju clan learned the lesson of managing the Uchiha clan in this way with blood. In addition, the seals on the Uchiha clan can prevent them from extracting chakra. If they want to cast illusions on Chu Yang, they have to take off these spells first. Chu Yang turned to the guard beside him and said, "Go find someone who is most seriously injured and has the least chakra." The guard immediately looked embarrassed. Chu Yang smiled and explained, "I just want to see the Uchiha clan's Sharingan illusion." The guard breathed a sigh of relief and laughed, "That's no problem." Not long after, the guard carried a boy younger than Chu Yang out of the prison. The boy was pale and thin, listless, and looked like he had been malnourished for a long time. Even Chu Yang doubted that he could not squeeze out chakra. Chu Yang thought that the other party must have been hungry during the time in the dungeon. He was limp like a puddle of mud. Originally, Chu Yang was going to ask the guard to change, but Chu Yang changed his mind and decided to be more cautious. Who knows if he was pretending? Without the blessing of pupil technique, it is difficult for ordinary ninjas to see through the opponent's chakra, unless there is a huge difference in strength. "Be careful, I'm going to reveal his spell." After the guard reminded Chu Yang, he stretched out his hand to tear off the spell covering the boy's eyelids. Chu Yang didn't even need to say anything more. The boy opened his eyes and stared at Chu Yang with his Sharingan, one single Magatama, one double Magatama. The moment the two looked at each other, the boy's hateful eyes pulled Chu Yang into the illusion. Chu Yang's expression suddenly became blank and sluggish. This made the guard on the side breathe quickly, and subconsciously wanted to knock out the Uchiha boy who was performing the illusion. "Wait!" A heavy and mature voice came from outside, stopping the guard's action. The guard turned around and immediately bowed in shock. The person who came was none other than Senju Tobarama. He stood aside and watched with interest, then smiled and said, "This kid is quite cautious. It won't be a problem for him to survive on the battlefield in the future. My elder brother also told me not to be too harsh on him, but now it seems that there is no need." In the words between the lines, Senju Tobarama meant to train Chu Yang as his successor, which shocked the guard. He felt that he had underestimated Chu Yang's status. Just as the guard was about to say something, the Uchiha boy in his hand suddenly groaned and then fainted, and Chu Yang also woke up from the illusion. Chu Yang's eyes became lively again, and there was also a trace of fear. Although he was prepared, the Sharingan illusion was more terrible than he expected. "Awake? How do you feel?" "Not bad." Chu Yang heard the familiar voice and hurriedly greeted Senju Tobarama respectfully. "Teacher, good morning." Senju Tobarama said indifferently, "You still know that I am your teacher? You went into the dungeon without saying a word to do such a dangerous thing. Do you know how terrible the Sharingan illusion is?" Chu Yang hurriedly explained, "In the past, I encountered some blind Uchiha people in the mission, so I want to experience the real Sharingan, so as not to pay tuition in the battlefield in the future. It is better to be prepared in advance than to cram at the last minute." Senju Tobarama, who was a little angry at first, raised his mouth slightly after hearing this. Chu Yang's idea was very much in line with his mind. He always liked to make plans early when doing things. What bothered Senju Tobarama the most was his elder brother Hashirama's naivety of "the boat will naturally straighten itself when the bridge comes." Thinking of this, Senju Tobarama no longer blamed Chu Yang for his reckless plan. Instead, he asked, what was it like to experience the Sharingan illusion for the first time? It was terrible. Chu Yang looked serious, and recalled carefully, it was faster than ordinary illusions, making it difficult for the target to defend. Before I started, I reminded myself to be careful, but I was still caught in an instant. What really makes people desperate is that the Sharingan illusion cannot be removed by conventional methods, and can only be overcome by willpower. Senju Tobirama nodded, you are right. So far, when we fight with the illusion masters of the Uchiha clan, there is basically no other way to avoid the illusion of the Sharingan except not looking into each other's eyes. The only thing to be thankful for is that the advantage of illusions in war is not obvious. After all, the battlefield is the place where the effect of illusions is most easily disrupted. Chu Yang suddenly realized, in other words, except for small-scale battles and one-on-one battles, the role of illusions is very limited. That's right. Senju Tobirama reminded Chu Yang, so you only need to understand the characteristics of the Sharingan illusion, don't go too deep and waste your time and energy. Chu Yang nodded respectfully and said, Teacher, I understand. In fact, Senju Tobirama didn't think Chu Yang would stop after his reminder. In his eyes, this was a very opinionated young man, so, Senju Tobirama just said a few words and left the dungeon. After Senju Tobirama left, Chu Yang silently felt his own domineering. Under the stimulation of the illusion, it really increased. After the negative emotions and scenes in the illusion stimulated Chu Yang's spirit, his momentum would explode, which in turn affected his domineering. This argument has been confirmed. In addition, Chu Yang found that as would release continued to strengthen his cell activity and make his physique stronger, his domineering would slowly increase, but the effect was not as obvious as the stimulation of the illusion. Chu Yang breathed a sigh of relief, glanced down at the unconscious Uchiha boy, and said expressionlessly, next. Just like that, after Chu Yang experienced 3 Sharingan illusions, his haki had a breakthrough. Not only did his armament haki reach a higher level, he also comprehended his observation haki. Chapter 13 Go All In. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The war between the two families lasted for half a month. In addition to the rising power of Hashirama Senju and Uchiha Madara, Chu Yang's name gradually entered the public's field of vision among the younger generation. The result of being famous is that danger will follow. After learning that Chu Yang was the heir cultivated by Hashirama Senju and Tobirama Senju, the Uchiha clan was determined to kill Chu Yang. Even the genius that Hashirama Senju valued would definitely become a big worry for the Uchiha clan in the future. They would never allow a second Hashirama Senju to appear. Therefore, in the next few battles, Chu Yang was enthusiastically taken care of by the other side on the battlefield. Wherever Chu Yang appeared, it would become the second battlefield center after Hashirama Senju and Uchiha Madara. Tobirama Senju was not a pushover. He seemed to have anticipated the other side's plan long ago, and did not hesitate to use Chu Yang as a bait to fight several beautiful ambushes, but this did not seem to dispel the Uchiha clan's idea of strangling Chu Yang in the cradle. As long as Chu Yang dared to appear on the battlefield, the other side would send the elites of the clan to surround and kill Chu Yang fearlessly. The unimaginable military strength and hysterical madness made the subsequent ambush battle fail to achieve the expected effect. At this point, things have gradually slipped out of Senju Tobirama's control. When he came to his senses, it was too late to withdraw Chu Yang. Chu Yang on the battlefield seemed to have become a symbol in the fierce competition between the two sides. If Chu Yang was withdrawn to the rear for protection at this time, the momentum of the Senju clan would be severely hit. In this way, the advantages established by Senju Tobirama in the previous battles would lose their meaning. So the two sides could only focus on Chu Yang. Continuously investing troops and increasing the stakes, they launched an unimaginable fierce offensive and defensive battle. For the direction of the entire war, its importance even surpassed the battle between Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. Late at night, the camp of the Uchiha clan. Uchiha Madara and his younger brother Uchiha Izuna were discussing the key points of winning or losing this war in the brightly lit secret room. Brother, if we drag it on, the situation will be unfavorable to us. We must go all out and gather the remaining illusion masters in the clan to get rid of the kid named Senju Yang. As long as he dies, the Senju clan, which is as powerful as a rainbow, will instantly fall to the bottom. At that time, we will win this war. Uchiha Izuna gave his opinion under great mental pressure, his eyes full of bloodshot. Uchiha Madara did not respond immediately, his eyes staring at the crisscrossing chess pieces on the sand table. Just as Izuna said, the Senju clan is constantly eroding their power. If we continue to maintain the status quo, it is only a matter of time before we lose this war. You will lead the team to do this matter yourself. It must succeed. If we fail, we will never be able to turn the tables. Uchiha Madara said heavily. Uchiha Izuna nodded and turned to walk out of the secret room. Watching his brother's back as he left, Uchiha Madara suddenly felt a little regretful. If possible, he wanted to go there himself, but he had to hold back Hashirama Senju on the front battlefield. Except for him, no one in the Uchiha clan could resist Hashirama, and vice versa. That night, Uchiha Izuna summoned 10 illusion masters from the clan to sneak into the camp of the Senju clan and assassinate Chu Yang. Of course, there are many people in the Uchiha clan who are good at illusions, but for assassinations, the more people there are, the greater the chance of problems. 10 people are the best number that Uchiha Izuna has repeatedly considered, and some of these 10 people can even be abandoned at critical moments. They know it well, and they have no regrets. Under the moonlight, this group of people quietly hide in the darkness. At the same time, Chu Yang has returned to the tent to rest after a day of fighting, but for some reason, Chu Yang just can't sleep. Obviously, his tired eyelids are fighting, but he always wakes up suddenly when he is about to fall asleep. What kind of strange negative buff is this? After tossing and turning on the bed for a long time, Chu Yang got up angrily, sat on the bed and cursed in a low voice, and then fell into self-doubt. Could it be that my body is too weak? As soon as the voice fell, Chu Yang hurriedly denied it. He was a masculine young man with strong firepower. How could he be weak? If it is not a physical problem, then it is a mental problem. Speaking of the spirit, Chu Yang found that not only his domineering aura became stronger, but also his intuition became more acute than before when facing danger on the battlefield. It should be some danger that makes me feel uneasy. Chu Yang's mind flashed, and then he used his observation haki with all his strength to completely cover his surroundings. Through the perception of the observation haki, Chu Yang found that 11 people with unknown auras were crossing the sentry post of the Senju clan and rushing towards him. Assassination? Chu Yang sneered, guessing the Uchiha clan's idea, but he didn't expect that the other party would actually regard him as the target of assassination. Chu Yang used the would-release shadow clone, leaving the clone on the bed and sneaking away. He was ready to send someone to catch the turtle in the jar. In order to deceive the enemy, Chu Yang did not inform the guard standing guard outside. On the other side, Uchiha Izuna led the masters of the clan to break through the security of the Senju clan. Every time they passed a sentry post, there would be an illusion master responsible for quietly hypnotizing the guards. After breaking through the encirclement, Uchiha Izuna led his men to the vicinity of Chu Yang's tent. As long as they eliminated the guards at the door, their mission this time was a sure thing. Under the signal from Uchiha Izuna's eyes, 5 illusion masters took action at the same time, quietly causing all the guards to fall into the illusion. Sir Izuna, are things going too smoothly? The oldest man in the team suddenly said. The most proficient in illusions in the clan are all here. If this fails, then we don't have to continue fighting the Senju clan and just surrender. Uchiha Izuna replied coldly. The old man smiled bitterly, said no more, and returned to the team again. The others were guarding outside. Uchiha Izuna opened the tent and walked in alone. He happened to see Chu Yang sleeping soundly, with a look of exhaustion on his face. So young. The moment Uchiha Senna saw Chu Yang's face, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He was already considered the leader of the younger generation in the Jonin world, but Chu Yang was younger than him. To kill such a young genius, even Uchiha Izuna, who is an enemy, would feel regretful. However, Uchiha Izuna knows very well that kindness to the enemy is cruelty to oneself. If Chu Yang is allowed to grow up, what awaits the Uchiha clan may be hell. Just thinking of this, Uchiha Izuna's expression became ferocious. He took out a kunai and stabbed Chu Yang in the neck hard. The moment the kunai penetrated Chu Yang's neck, the touch returned by the kunai made Uchiha Izuna turn pale. Would clone. Chapter 14 Uchiha loses the chance to turn the tables, please read more. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing Chu Yang on the bed gradually turning into a piece of wood, Uchiha Izuna's eyes almost fell out. How could it be a wooden clone? Uchiha Izuna screamed heartbreakingly, like a licking dog who was ruthlessly abandoned by a scumbag. His heart pounded and fell straight to hell. He knew exactly what this meant. Ah! Lord Izuna! There is an ambush. Help! Master Izuna! Uchiha Izuna suddenly lifted up the tent and found that there were dense crowds of people around. The firelight illuminated the place in an instant. The subordinates outside the tent were covered with kunai and shurikens, lying in a pool of blood, dying, and even worse, staring at Uchiha Izuna with dead eyes. It's like asking him, why did you bring us to die? How is this possible? Uchiha Izuna looked at Chu Yang in pain and asked in an unbelievable tone, how did you know that we would come to assassinate you? Chu Yang scratched his head in embarrassment and said, you might not believe it, but I just couldn't sleep, so I just got up and took a walk. Uchiha Izuna's eyes widened, then a look of humiliation appeared on his face. How could he believe this? You said you couldn't sleep, why is there still a shadow clone on the bed? The furious Uchiha Izuna was so angry that she spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. Capture him alive. Senju Hashirama's eyes flashed with a hint of unbearability. It was obvious that he did not want to hurt his friend Uchiha Madara's biological brother. The other tribesmen received the order and slowly surrounded Uchiha Izuna. Boy, did you really find out that these people were planning to assassinate you when you couldn't sleep and got up for a walk? Senju Tobarama asked curiously. How is that possible? Chu Yang started talking nonsense as soon as he rolled his eyes. They have not been able to kill me after so many battles. They must be holding back their bad intentions. I haven't slept for several days. I have to stay vigilant and be prepared. I just guessed them. Will come to assassinate me. Senju Hashirama laughed and joked, isn't your kid too scared to sleep? Chu Yang rolled his eyes at him and said speechlessly, Master Patriarch, if you talk like this, we won't be able to continue the conversation. Hearing this, Qian Shu Feijian also showed a knowing smile. At this moment, Uchiha Izuna, who realized that failure of the mission would have a devastating blow to Uchiha, had entered madness. His eyes were scarlet, like a beast on the verge of death. Seeing him like this, the Thousand Hands clan members who surrounded him felt inexplicably panicked. Uchiha Izuna, who was covered in blood, launched a suicidal attack on the crowd. He was not afraid of death and had only one purpose, which was to kill Chu Yang. No matter what happens today, he will kill Chu Yang. Facing Uchiha Izuna, who was attacking the encirclement at all costs, the Senju tribe's defense line gradually failed. Due to the previous order of Senju Hashirama to capture him alive, they did not dare to kill him. As the saying goes, hesitation leads to defeat. Their hesitation gave Uchiha Izuna an opportunity, and the latter opened the gap in the encirclement and headed straight for Chu Yang. Some Uchiha people on the ground who were supposed to be dead suddenly resurrected again. At the moment of being ambushed, some of them used the corpses of their companions to resist harm and pretend to be dead. However, each of them was seriously injured and died soon. This time it was a complete flashback. They must seize the last chance and make a last-ditch effort for Uchiha Izuna to kill Chu Yang. Even Senju Tobarama didn't expect this. Due to his carelessness, he actually fell into an illusion and fell into a brief sluggish state. Thousand-Armed Hashirama, known as the god of ninja, also did not react. There is a huge disparity in strength between the two sides, and the Uchiha can only control them for a short period of time before the illusion becomes ineffective, but this is completely enough to assassinate Chu Yang. Uchiha Izuna's Sharingan was spinning. As long as Chu Yang fell into the illusion and lost his defense, the kunai in his hand could easily cut Chu Yang's neck, but something unexpected happened to Uchiha Izuna. Chu Yang closed his eyes calmly, without any fear. Do you think you won't die if you don't fall into a genjutsu? You idiot! Uchiha Izuna roared and waved the kunai. He seemed to be able to see the scene of Chu Yang's neck artery rupturing. Who would have thought that Chu Yang, who had his eyes closed, could easily avoid Uchiha Izuna's attack. Uchiha Izuna looked at Chu Yang with a ridiculous expression, then gritted his teeth and stabbed him with the kunai in his hand again, then he was avoided again. Chu Yang took the opportunity to hit Uchiha Izuna hard on the waist with Seimwa Shoken, a punch that exploded. Uchiha Izuna looked at Chu Yang as if he had seen a ghost. I even ignored the severe pain in my waist. You obviously have your eyes closed, how can you accurately predict my every move? That as Uchiha Izuna spat out a large mouthful of blood, his breath suddenly became weak. What else could it be because of? Of course it's the domineering nature of seeing and hearing. Chu Yang replied seriously, guess. Puff. Uchiha Izuna was so angry that he vomited blood again, rolled his eyes, and passed out completely, and those Uchiha tribesmen who were dragging Senju Hashirama and Tobirama with their lives also fell down, with disbelief written on their faces. Their desperate move turned into a big joke in front of Chu Yang. Senju Hashirama woke up and looked at Chu Yang immediately. He was relieved after confirming that he was safe. Senju Tobirama was the same. Senju Hashirama smiled bitterly and said, I was careless and almost got into trouble. Chu Yang smiled and said, it doesn't matter. After catching Uchiha Izuna, the initiative is in our hands. It's up to us to fight or make peace. Senju Tobirama said, your performance this time impressed me. It seems that there is no need to train you extra in the future. Chu Yang laughed. Not only Senju Tobirama, but all the clan members saw Chu Yang's performance just now and really admired it from the bottom of their hearts. The sky gradually brightened. Uchiha Madara, who had been waiting for his brother all night but couldn't wait, could only vent his anger on the sand table and destroyed it with one punch. He knew that after this incident, the Uchiha clan had completely lost the chance to turn the tables, and continuing to fight would only lead to death. Not only Uchiha Madara understood this. When the news that Uchiha Izuna was captured after failing to assassinate was passed back to the Uchiha clan, many people immediately thought of surrendering. Only one day later, Uchiha Madara saw many people sneaking out of the camp. The morale was so low that nothing could be done to save the situation. As the clan leader, the last thing Uchiha Madara could do was to find Senju Hashirama and have the final duel. Please read, recommend, and vote for the monthly ticket. Brothers, if you don't want more comments, please. Thank you. Chapter 15, Fusion of Taijutsu and Ninjutsu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Brother, we have the upper hand now. There is no need to risk our lives to duel with that Uchiha Madara guy. After receiving the news, Tobirama Senju rushed to stop Hashirama Senju as soon as possible. He knew that with the other party's character, he would definitely agree to the duel. Hashirama Senju was silent for a while, then asked, Tobirama, do you know how many of our clansmen have died in this war? Tobirama Senju choked when he heard this, because this is a number that makes people feel distressed when they think about it. Seeing his brother's expression, Hashirama Senju's eyes flashed with grief, and he said in a deep voice, of course I understand that taking advantage of the current advantage is the safest way to win, but this is a way to win at the cost of more lives, and I can't bear it. When Itama and Wadama died, I vowed to end the war as soon as possible. The sooner this war ends, the more people will survive. Hearing this, Tobirama Senju knew that his brother had made up his mind, and no matter what he said, it would be useless. Looking at his uncertain brother, Senju Tobirama patted his shoulder and said with a heroic smile, Tobirama, have some confidence in me. Do you think I will lose? Of course you won't lose. I'm just worried that you won't be able to be ruthless at the critical moment. Senju Tobirama smiled bitterly, and then solemnly warned, you must remember that you are the patriarch of the Senju clan. This is not a simple victory or defeat. It is also related to the fate of thousands of clansmen behind you. Remember. Senju Hashirama nodded seriously. I promise that no one will disturb your duel. After saying this, Senju Tobirama walked out of the room without even saying hello. Senju Hashirama knew that he was angry, and watched his brother's back with apology. Senju Tobirama left the room in a restless mood, so he wandered aimlessly on the street, and in a trance he actually walked to Chu Yang's residence. At this time, Chu Yang was practicing fishman karate in the yard. Senju Tobirama stood outside the yard, watching silently. and was gradually attracted by this new physical training school, after no longer thinking about those annoying things. The depression in Senju Tobarama's heart suddenly dissipated a lot. Yang, your physical training seems to contain some water-attributed chakra changes. Senju Tobarama, who had been observing for a long time, couldn't help asking. Chu Yang actually sensed the existence of Senju Tobarama a long time ago, but just pretended not to know. It was not until Senju Tobarama spoke that he pretended to be surprised. "Teacher, hello." Chu Yang greeted respectfully. "Yeah." Senju Tobarama responded casually, and then couldn't wait to ask, "Your physical training is very special, can you tell me in detail?" Chu Yang nodded. In fact, Chu Yang just practiced a special skill in urine karate, water control. Urine karate is a special physical training that has the ability to control water flow, but this is related to the racial talent of the urine people to a certain extent. As an ordinary person, Chu Yang theoretically cannot reach this level. Chu Yang also knew this, so he decided to take a different approach and prepare to combine the power of water escape to simulate this skill. Wood escape itself is a fusion of water attribute chakra and earth attribute chakra. Chu Yang is naturally familiar with the power of water escape. Chu Yang just started to try and had some eyebrows, but Senju Tobarama came, so he simply expressed his ideas and asked the other party to give him advice. After all, he is the #1 inventor in the history of the ninja world, and Senju Tobarama's mind is much better than Chu Yang. Listening to Chu Yang's description, Senju Tobarama smiled and nodded frequently. This kind of skill combining physical skills and ninjutsu is not uncommon in the ninja world, but without exception, the difficulty of development is extremely high, but Chu Yang can complete the prototype with his own efforts. In Senju Tobarama's view, Chu Yang's thinking is superior to ordinary people, which coincides with the attributes of a researcher like him. Not only can he inherit my elder brother's wood release, but he can also inherit my ninjutsu and continue to innovate. Senju Tobarama saw many possibilities in Chu Yang. Chu Yang was dry-mouthed after talking for a long time, but he didn't get any suggestions. He raised his head and saw Senju Tobarama looking at him with a smile. Chu Yang was frightened and shuddered. The sun today is afraid that it will not rise from the west. Senju Tobarama, who is always serious, will smile. Is it an illusion? When Chu Yang looked at Senju Tobarama again, he found that he had returned to his usual cold appearance. It was indeed an illusion. There is no problem with your idea of this physical technique. The key point is that you don't know enough about the power of water release. You only stay at a very superficial stage, which will hinder the progress of your physical technique. To perfect this physical technique, starting today, you must learn more about water release from me. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. What is the ninjutsu that the second-generation Hokage is best at? Flying Thunder God? No. The answer is water escape. Before creating Flying Thunder God, Senju Tobarama started with water escape and killed many people in the family war. So Chu Yang began to ask Senju Tobarama about water escape with great interest, and the latter also started teaching mode, starting from the basics. Both of them were very immersed in it, and they didn't end the teaching until it got dark. Before leaving, Senju Tobarama stood at the door hesitantly, as if he was making some important decision. The clan leader is going to duel with Uchiha Madara. As for the location of the duel, I am the only one in the clan who knows it. I plan to take you with me. What do you think, that the duel between Hashirama Senju and Uchiha Madara? Is there any need to think about it? This is the most exciting battle in the history of the ninja world, and with the second-generation Hokage as a bodyguard, what is there to hesitate about? I want to go. Chu Yang said excitedly. Tobarama Senju smiled, as if he had expected Chu Yang's reaction, and said, watching that level of strong people fight, although it will be dangerous, it will also benefit you infinitely. As a user of wood release, you should carefully observe the clan leader's fighting style. Chu Yang understood that this was a very good opportunity. Before, he was busy saving his life on the battlefield, so he had no time to watch Hashirama Senju's battle. Late at night the next day, two figures shuttled through the woods like ghosts and came to a hidden valley. However, this place is different from the Valley of the End in Chu Yang's memory. There is no waterfall, only a stream, which should be somewhere else. Moreover, the plot did not develop to the moment of the final battle in the Valley of the End. When they arrived at the place, Senju Tobirama and Chu Yang hid their bodies and walked around, although according to Uchiha Madara's character, he would never set an ambush if he agreed to a duel, but for the sake of safety, Senju Tobirama still left the spell of Flying Thunder God in many places and set up many detonating talisman traps. If there was anything wrong, he would stop the duel. Chapter 16: The Battle Between the Top Masters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chu Yang, who was squatting in the grass and had nothing to do, raised his head and counted the stars. However, the clouds were so thick today that he couldn't see the stars at all. Wait until the dark clouds cover the moonlight overhead for the third time. Chu Yang sensed two very powerful auras from his sight. The aura was so powerful that Chu Yang was so frightened that he had to take the initiative to turn off the domineering power of seeing and hearing. Immediately, Qian Shu Feijian whispered in Chu Yang's ear, "Here he comes, coming." These two simple words made Chu Yang's heart suddenly lift. Chu Yang cautiously stretched out his head and finally saw the figure of Senju Hashirama. Opposite him was the famous Madara Uchiha. The two faithful enemies stared at each other across a stream. "Madara, surrender. Let's end this meaningless war together." Senju Hashirama said loudly, "You and I can establish a peaceful environment so that the children of the tribe can live safely and happily. You are still as innocent as ever. Sometimes I really envy you." Uchiha Madara looked at Senju Hashirama with a complicated expression, shook his head, and said coldly, "Where is Izuna?" "Did you kill him?" Senju Hashirama explained, "He is not dead." After hearing the news that his brother was not dead, Madara Uchiha's indifferent expression finally softened, and a trace of joy flashed in his eyes. Uchiha Madara said, "Hashirama, unless we decide the winner today, this war will not end. If you long for peace, then use your fists to speak." Hearing this, Senju Hashirama finally gave up the last bit of luck in his heart, took a deep breath, and prepared for battle. Uchiha Madara smiled. He just wanted to see the opponent showing his full strength. Before, it was just a small fight on the battlefield. The next second, the two figures collided and started a fierce battle. Under Chu Yang's observation, he found that whether it was Uchiha Madara or Senju Hashirama, they did not use ninjutsu very frequently, and most of their battles involved fighting with taijutsu. In the battles of the top warriors, the ninjutsu used are mastered to the extreme. They do not need too many seals when using them, or they may be simplified to only 2 or 3 seals. Otherwise, the window period of forming the seal will be a huge flaw in the eyes of the enemy. So far, Uchiha Madara has only used fire release to assist in combat, while Senju Hashirama has only used wood release, but it was this extremely simple battle that gave Chu Yang a very strong visual impact. Gradually, the speed at which they were fighting had exceeded the limit of human vision. Chu Yang could only see a series of blurry figures, but no specific movements. Qian Shu Feijian, who was standing next to Chu Yang, noticed Chu Yang's predicament at this time and comforted him with a few words. "There is no way to do this, unless you have a special pupil technique like Sharingan or Byakugan that can greatly improve your eyesight. It is really difficult for ordinary people's eyesight to keep up with the movements of top experts." Even if Chu Yang's body was strengthened by wood release, he would only be able to see it for a while longer than ordinary people. The battle between the two spread far and wide, and the entire valley was ravaged. The earth collapsed, trees, flowers and plants were wiped out, and everything was destroyed. Chu Yang was horrified at the sight. Before he could react, he was grabbed by Qian Shu Feijian and quickly fled from the edge of the battlefield. Not long after they left, a fireball the size of a 3-story building landed where they had stayed, and the aftermath of the explosion scraped the ground 3 feet away. After Chu Yang landed, he could only see a piece of black charcoal when he looked back. If he was still standing there, let alone Mu-dun, even the King of Heaven would not be able to save him. In an instant, cold sweat soaked Chu Yang's back, and he began to tremble unconsciously. Senju Tobirama smiled and said, "Did you see it? Even the simple technique of high fireball has different powers in the hands of different people." Chu Yang couldn't help but rolled his eyes. "What the hell do you call that, a powerful fireball technique? Those who didn't know thought that the mushroom egg fell on my head." At this time, Chinju Tojian did not forget to teach the shocked Chu Yang, "You are very smart, but your problem is that you are too smart. You can learn everything easily, and then you want to learn everything. In the end, you just know a little bit of everything. Just a fool. Chu Yang did not deny Chinju Feijian's point of view, but he was not fighting alone. With so many clones learning from each other and integrating each other's knowledge, ordinary people's problems will not become Chu Yang's problems. The path he takes is destined to be beyond the imagination and understanding of ordinary people. As the moon in the sky becomes brighter and brighter, the battle gradually becomes more intense. The trembling of the earth caught Chu Yang's attention. As soon as he raised his head, he saw an indescribably huge figure rising from the ground. The 1,000-foot-tall tree man immediately blocked the moonlight in the sky, like the arrival of an ancient demon, would release Wooden Man's technique. Senju Hashirama, who was standing on the shoulder of the wooden figure, looked solemn. At this point in the battle, both sides had shown their ability to press against the bottom of the box. The victory or defeat depended on this boom. The wooden man moved. Every time it took a step, the whole valley shook. Right in front of the wooden figure, Uchiha Madara began to form seals, and the Magatama in the Mangekyo Sharingan eyes kept spinning. Uchiha Madara releases his power to the limit. And in one breath, 90% of the body's chakra was consumed, and blue flames burned from the void, condensing into a phantom of a skeleton. As the flames burned stronger and stronger, the shadow solidified, and the skeleton gradually turned into a complete human form, finally condensing into a huge shadow of a warrior god wearing warrior armor. The mighty war god is Susanoo. Its size is comparable to that of the wooden man. The armor on its back has a pair of wings. It has 4 arms, and each hand holds a sword. Under the control of Uchiha Madara, the war god and the wooden man are getting closer and closer, and he is the first to cut a sword. The wooden man stretched out his hand and roughly grabbed the long sword formed by the energy in the hand of the war god. He dragged the war god in front of him with his backhand and punched him hard. The battle between the two giants made Chu Yang's blood boil. Brother will definitely win. Uchiha Madara doesn't have that much physical strength to maintain Susanoo. His strength is almost at its limit. Senju Tobirama said coldly. At this time, Chu Yang also found that as the time Susanoo appeared became longer and longer, its movements became slower and slower. In the previous battle, Uchiha Madara had accumulated a lot of injuries, and Senju Hashirama, with his excellent healing ability, was in much better physical condition than Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara, who had hollowed out his body to summon Susanoo, was already at the end of his strength. Senju Tobirama sighed. It's really ironic, his current situation is exactly the same as the Uchiha clan, that with this Susanoo, which was like a demon god, collapsed with a bang. Please read, recommend, and comment. Chapter 17. Why do you always make me angry? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Madara lost. Lost without any surprise. Even though Chu Yang knew the outcome long ago, he still couldn't help but feel sorry for him. From the beginning, it was impossible for Uchiha Madara to defeat an alien like Senju Hashirama. Why was Uchiha Madara so obsessed with obtaining Hashirama cells, not only to obtain the power of the Samsara Eye, but also to obtain the terrifying self-healing ability? Compared with Senju Hashirama's self-healing ability, it is estimated that most tailed beasts cannot compare with it. After Uchiha Madara was defeated, Senju Hashirama did not kill him, but once again asked him to cooperate with him in an alliance, hoping that the two of them could build a peaceful village together. Uchiha Madara, who was lying on the ground, had a complicated expression. He murmured, "The Uchiha clan has lost, and so have I." Even without this battle, Uchiha would have suffered the same fate. The general trend was that they had no chance. Uchiha Madara, whose younger brother Izuna is still alive, has not yet fallen into paranoia. He hesitated for a while and finally nodded in agreement. At the same time, Chu Yang could clearly feel the killing intent emerging from Chinju Feijian's body, and it could be seen that he was very dissatisfied with his brother's behavior. Why not kill Madara Uchiha? That person is destined to become a source of uneasiness. Senju Tobirama could see further than Hashirama. He saw not only Uchiha Madara, but also the entire Uchiha family. Unless the Thousand Hands clan is willing to give up their throne, these people will rebel sooner or later because they have too much power. no powerful family is willing to succumb to others. If it hadn't been for the monster Senju Hashirama, the Senju clan might have lost today. Teacher, don't worry about the Uchiha clan. This family itself is not united. Each head of the family rose to power by relying on his own strength. We only need to continue to draw them together and divide them, and the Uchiha clan will not be able to grow. The young voice suddenly woke up Qian Shu Feijian, who was in an angry mood, and he looked at Chu Yang thoughtfully. Senju Tobarama asked, "If it were you, what would you do?" Chu Yang smiled and said, "Set up a department that seems to have a high status but has no real power. Hold them up high and specialize in carrying out tasks with extremely low survival rates. Let them accept people's praise and enjoy the halo of heroes, and at the same time let them die willingly. I should say sacrifice. You can think of it as a high-level moral kidnapping." Moral kidnapping? Qian Shu Feijian muttered this word he heard for the first time, his eyes shone slightly, and he refused to deny that Chu Yang's point of view was quite interesting, but after thinking carefully, Senju Tobarama still shook his head and said, "What you said is too simple. Uchiha Madara is not a fool. He can see through your little thoughts at a glance. It is better to limit their power from the beginning and slowly weaken them until they are unable to resist." Chu Yang explained, "This plan must start from the emotional aspect. We need to make the Uchiha clan feel a sense of belonging to the village that the patriarch will build next. We cannot let them become marginalized people in the village, otherwise they will firmly stick together. Heating, under external pressure, becomes more and more united. Divide them emotionally, create a sense of belonging, moral kidnapping, die under the halo of heroes." Qianju Feijian closed his eyes. Chu Yang's voice kept passing through his mind. His views were strange, detailed. When I think about it, it's a bit scary. As the saying goes, soft knives hurt the most, especially rusty knives. Using beautiful emotions as bait is simply playing with people's hearts. Thousand Hands Tobarama suddenly narrowed his eyes. "It's a good thing you are from the Thousand Hands clan, otherwise I would definitely be the first to kill you." Chu Yang curled his lips and said, "Teacher, it's not kind of you to say that. I only gave you advice because I saw you were worried. Aren't you trying to kill the donkey?" "Humph." The corners of Qian Shu Feijian's mouth rose slightly. Chu Yang provided him with new ideas to solve the problem, which made him feel a lot better. He vaguely felt that this was more vicious, and more appropriate than openly suppressing Uchiha. There is no need to conflict with the eldest brother Hashirama over the Uchiha clan, so it is simply killing two birds with one stone. When the sky dawned, Senju Tobarama took Chu Yang back to the station first, rushed to the dungeon without stopping, and then released the Uchiha tribesmen in an orderly manner. The sealing technique has not been lifted, and letting them out only makes it easier for doctors to treat them. Next, we have to wait for the Uchiha clan to come to take people. After all, with the promotion of Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, the alliance between the two families is a certainty. Giving some small favors in advance will help win people's hearts. Senju Tobarama's prestige in the clan was very high. Even if he released his enemies on his own initiative, no one in the clan would question him. This made Chu Yang amazed. "Senju Tobarama, what do you want to do?" Uchiha Izuna walked up to Senju Tobarama, his face full of question marks. He didn't understand this operation at all. Senju Tobarama glanced at him and said calmly, "The Senju clan and the Uchiha clan have planned to have peace talks. Letting you out is just for the smooth progress of the peace talks. Why do you want to negotiate for peace when you have such a great advantage?" Uchiha Izuna suddenly asked in surprise, "Did Senju Hashirama be defeated by my elder brother? Wake up. Even if we fight 100 times, Uchiha Madara can't beat my elder brother." Senju Tobarama said disdainfully, "Uchiha Madara lost, but my elder brother decided to put aside the past grudges and cooperate with you. Don't be ungrateful." "Impossible." Uchiha Izuna's face changed drastically, and he was ashamed. He gritted his teeth and said, "The Uchiha clan will never accept peace talks." Chu Yang looked at him curiously and asked, "Then when are you going to fight?" "Fight until the Uchiha clan is wiped out. Even Uchiha Madara lost, what can you use to fight us? Puff. Uchiha Izuna was speechless after being confronted by Chu Yang. He was furious again and spit out a mouthful of hot blood. This is the third time. Every knife pierces my heart. He looked at the boy indignantly. Why don't you get angry with anyone, but only me? In the evening, Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha came to the Senju clan's base together, followed by the captured Senju clan members. Tobirama Senju, who had been prepared for a long time, also delivered the Uchiha clan members to Madara Uchiha. Madara Uchiha looked at him in surprise. In his memory, Tobirama Senju was not such an easy guy to talk to, however. Then Tobirama Senju said something that shocked him. From now on, we are companions. Chapter 18 We need to help Uchiha. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Uchiha Izuna returned to the clan, his mind was filled with Chu Yang's murderous and heart-wrenching words. He was not convinced and wanted to persuade Uchiha Madara to overturn the agreement. Uchiha Madara was silent for a long time, and only said, "Go to the clan yourself and see how the clan members react, and then come back and tell me your decision." So Uchiha Izuna had to walk around the streets alone. In order not to disturb the people, he also used the transformation technique. It was already approaching dusk, and under the setting sun, smoke was rising from every house. Smelling the smoke of fireworks, Uchiha Izuna's nerves, which had been strained by the war in recent days, gradually relaxed. He heard laughter. Uchiha Izuna turned his head, and a group of children ran past him while playing and laughing. Laughter comes from children playing, but it's more than that. Clan members were coming from all directions with smiles and passed by Uchiha Izuna. They were talking about family and family affairs while laughing intermittently. Like a melodious ditty, it slowly enters the ear and makes people feel relaxed and happy. This was a scene that had not appeared in Uchiha Izuna's memory for a long time. He originally thought that the Senju clan would have to be completely defeated before such a scene would appear again in the Uchiha clan. However, in fact, after the news of the two major families ending the war and forming an alliance spread, the shadow of the war on people was quickly fading. Uchiha Izuna stood there blankly, feeling the bustling traffic around me. All kinds of feelings came to my mind. He realized that he might be wrong, and if he persisted, his enemy might not be the Thousand Hands clan. It was the tribesmen around him who had longed for peace. Uchiha Izuna, who originally opposed the alliance, could only bow his head under the heavy public sentiment. He no longer prevents the alliance between the Uchiha clan and the Senju clan. It didn't take long for the news of the alliance between the two families to spread throughout the entire shinobi world, causing shock to all forces. The two families put aside their prejudices, worked together, and began to build the first ninja village in the history of the ninja world in accordance with the ideals of Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. But new trouble is coming. While the construction of Konoha village was going on, major families and ordinary people were also busy voting for the first Hokage of Konoha village. Of course the people's will is Senju Hashirama, but Chu Yang gave Chinju Feijin a different opinion. The clan leader will definitely vote for Uchiha Madara. Teacher, you might as well do the same and vote for Uchiha Madara. Chu Yang looked at Senju Tobirama with a smile. Like a little fox, Senju Tobirama was immediately alert and said, "Boy, do you know what you're talking about? If something goes wrong and Uchiha Madara really becomes Hokage, the Konoha village that brother has worked so hard to build will be over." Chu Yang explained, "Teacher, you should have investigated the internal evaluation of Uchiha Madara within the Uchiha clan. It can be said that it has hit rock bottom. If the clan leader had not repeatedly emphasized the significance of Uchiha Madara's status in Konoha village, I am afraid that he has already reached the bottom. I can't suppress those tribesmen. In this case, how many people will choose him to become the first Hokage? The vote of you and the clan leader is just giving timely help. To say the least, even if you really want Uchiha Madara to become the first Hokage, the people below will not agree. The first ones to object are the Uchiha clan members who want Uchiha Madara to step down. If Senju Hashirama wants to give up his position, the people below will never agree, and will only keep him in a high position. Isn't that why the yellow robe is added to the body?" Senju Tobirama pondered for a while and asked, "Is this also part of your plan to win people's hearts?" Chu Yang chuckled and said, we can win over some Uchiha people, accelerate their internal divisions, and isolate Uchiha Madara, and then accept him and let him find a sense of belonging with us. Chu Yang nodded, and then whispered, a Uchiha Madara who is trapped in Konoha village by family and friendship and works hard without complaint is much better than an Uchiha Madara who betrays his family and leaves with hatred, right? That it was like a gust of cold wind blew by, and the hair on Shinju Tojian's body stood up instantly. He understood that Chu Yang wanted to use emotional shackles to tightly lock Uchiha Madara. Will this work? Senju Tobirama is not sure, because Uchiha Madara is a very ambitious guy, but there is no doubt that this plan will be beneficial to Konoha village and the Senju clan without any harm. Even if they couldn't achieve the desired effect on Uchiha Madara in the end, they still won. After Chu Yang's instigation, Senju Tobirama found Senju Hashirama, who was having a headache about the election, and told him that he wanted to vote for Uchiha Madara. After hearing this, Senju Hashirama looked at his younger brother as if he were a stranger. What's wrong with you? This is not like your style. First you released the Uchiha clan members early, and then you asked to vote for Madara. What do you want to do? Some of Chu Yang's words flashed through Senju Tobirama's mind. He twitched his lips unnaturally, squeezed out a smile that didn't look like a smile, and said, I want to use this to repair the gap with the Uchiha clan. Although the Uchiha clan surrendered, their strength still exists. They are the most powerful clan besides the Senju clan. If the Uchiha clan cannot integrate into Konoha village, it will cause a lot of trouble to the village in the future. Therefore, I want to repair the relationship with them as soon as possible and find ways to help them integrate into the village. After saying this, Senju Tobirama himself was almost moved, not to mention Senju Hashirama, who has been working hard for this, but not everyone can understand him. What other power can compare to the support of relatives? Tobirama, I'm glad that you think so. Let's work hard together. Senju Hashirama patted his brother's shoulder happily, and the psychological fatigue was swept away. The two brothers didn't know, in fact, at this time, someone outside the room just happened to hear their conversation. The person who came was Uchiha Madara. He originally came to Senju Hashirama because of the selection of the first generation of Hokage, but he accidentally heard the conversation between the two. Uchiha Madara didn't expect that Senju Tobirama, who had always been hostile to the Uchiha clan, would actually do such a thing for them. As for Senju Tobirama, he mentioned that the Uchiha clan would cause trouble to Konoha in the future. In this regard, he, who was isolated by his clan members, suddenly felt that he could understand Senju Tobirama's thoughts. Some characteristics hidden in the Uchiha clan cannot be eradicated and will grow wildly in a certain period of time. For example, betrayal. Uchiha Madara was deeply shocked and told his brother Uchiha Izuna about it without hesitation after returning home. The latter was also shocked, thinking of the change in attitude of Senju Tobirama before. He felt mixed emotions for a while. The next day, with the witness of other families, the Senju brothers and the Uchiha brothers did something that shocked everyone. They voted for each other. Please read and recommend. Comments are also okay, brothers. Chapter 19. The arrangement is clear. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Outrageous. A great departure from the world. The atmosphere at the voting site was eerie and creepy. Representatives of the major families didn't speak and looked at the four brothers standing together quietly. The scene is magical. Even Chu Yang had goosebumps all over his body, fearing that he would mess up the whole thing on a whim, but fortunately, the development of things did not exceed the trajectory of fate. It was just a little deviation, except for Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama. Only some people voted for Uchiha Madara. Those people were all arranged by Senju Tobirama in advance. Everything is according to plan. Uchiha Madara was a little disappointed with the result. He knew that his reputation among the people of Konoha village was not as good as Senju Hashirama, but he did not expect that there would be such a disparity. But in the end, he chose to accept it calmly, and even Uchiha Izuna didn't have any objections. Madara. Senju Hashirama looked at his friend apologetically. He seems to feel sorry for becoming Hokage. Feeling Senju Hashirama's true gaze, Uchiha Madara sighed and said, Hashirama, this is everyone's choice, including me. You don't need to feel guilty. I chose you because I believe you can achieve our ideals. At this point, Senju Hashirama no longer gave in. He was grateful for his friend's advice. Surrounded by everyone, he announced that he would become the first Hokage of Konoha village. While many family representatives and people came forward to congratulate, Uchiha Izuna slowly walked to Senju Tobarama and stood side by side with him. I can now understand why eldest brother can become friends with him. Uchiha Izuna said sincerely, Hokage-sama does have a special personality charm. I hope that Konoha village will get better and better under his leadership. Senju Tobarama nodded and said, brother will not let anyone down, you can rest assured. Suddenly, Uchiha Izuna made an action that Senju Tobarama did not expect. He stretched out his hand towards Senju Feijian and said with a smile. Let's get to know each other again, the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Izuna. Senju Tabijian was stunned for a moment, then took a deep look at the other person and stretched out his hand, Senju clan, Senju Tabijian. As representatives of the main war faction of their respective families, the handshake between these two people was even more eye-catching than the handshake between Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara on the other side. Chu Yang, who was standing outside the crowd, watched this scene with interest, but suddenly felt the affirmative gaze from Shu Feijian. It means boy, your conspiracy is quite effective. Chu Yang. Because of Chu Yang's push, the development trajectory of Konoha village is slightly different from the original plot. The Uchiha clan and the Senju clan have also entered a honeymoon period of development that is unheard of in history. As time went by, major events happened one after another in Konoha, which were enough to affect the development of the entire village. The first thing is that under the leadership of Senju Tobarama, Konoha officially established ANBU. Everyone originally thought that Senju Tobarama would naturally become the head of ANBU, but no one expected that he would actually give up this crucial position to Uchiha Izuna. Senju Tobarama took the next best step and became the Hokage's assistant. Everyone thinks that Senju Tobarama made a sacrifice, including the Uchiha clan. It seemed that only Chu Yang knew Shu Feijian's intentions. First of all, the first priority of the UNBU organization is to protect the safety of Naruto in secret, and secondly, the Special Assassination Tactics Unit is responsible for sniping important enemy figures. Reconnaissance of enemy situations and prevention of foreign enemy invasion during special periods are the lowest priority responsibilities. Protecting the Hokage was a top priority, not to mention anything else, and trusting the safety of Senju Hashirama to Uchiha Izuna has already expressed Senju Hashirama's trust in the Uchiha clan. This can greatly gain the favor of the Uchiha clan and even Uchiha Izuna himself. There is no doubt about it. Are there any risks in this decision? Of course there is, however. The risk is still within the acceptable range, because Uchiha Izuna is not strong enough to threaten Senju Hashirama. Even if he rebels, he cannot hurt Senju Hashirama. Senju Tobarama has already considered this. Then, at Chu Yang's suggestion, Senju Tobarama himself planned to place a special team inside the ANBU to secretly monitor the entire ANBU's actions. This is the route that Shimura Danzo will later establish. Based on these 2 points, Senju Tobarama would give up the position of head of the UNBU to Uchiha Izuna. Of course, he would have other arrangements in the future to ensure that nothing goes wrong. What really makes Chu Yang feel wonderful is the position of Hokage's assistant. Who has more power, the Hokage's assistant or the head of ANBU? Most people would choose the person in charge of ANBU. Isn't the Hokage's assistant just someone who runs errands for the Hokage? What power can there be? But don't forget that with Senju Hashirama's character, he will definitely put all matters big and small on his brother Tobarama's head, and Senju Tobarama will become the actual controller of Hokage's power. Everyone thought that Senju Tobarama sacrificed his deserved power for the peaceful and stable development of the village, but in fact, the power in his hands was not less at all, it was just hidden. Uchiha Madara might see the clues, but he would never think too much about it, because the ANBU, which has a transcendent power and position, is already in the hands of his younger brother, Izuna. Moreover, he knew Hashirama Senju very well and knew that he could not handle those headache-inducing official duties and would definitely delegate power to his younger brother. After the problem of the UNBU was solved, the second thing was the establishment of the security department. It was still because of the UNBU that Tobarama Senju handed over half of the power of the security department to the Hyuga clan. As a large clan with power second only to the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan, the Hyuga clan had weight and reason to share a piece of the power cake. The security department, which should have been controlled by the Uchiha clan, now had a force that could check and balance them. Even so, the Uchiha clan still did not lose, and Tobirama Senju also took the opportunity to win the hearts of the Hyuga clan. With this arrangement, the Uchiha clan gained a lot of benefits, but Uchiha Madara, as the clan leader, only obtained the status of a senior consultant without any actual benefits. The terrible thing is that no one thought there was a problem. Even the Uchiha clan had no opinions. In addition to the above two major events, the third event is of long-term significance to the development of Konoha village, the establishment of Konoha Ninja School. It is the common wish of Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara to give children who have suffered from war a place to grow up healthily, train them, and have the ability to protect themselves. Senju Tobirama, who is good at teaching young people ninjutsu, was also elected as the first principal of the school. Chu Yang, as the first-generation Hokage and the direct disciple of Senju Tobirama, became the first teacher in the school. Chapter 20 Chu Yang of Hogwarts, please read. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I will definitely become a Hokage in the future. A Hokage like Hashirama. On the first day of enrollment in the ninja school, Chu Yang found a student yelling at the gate. Chu Yang didn't like teaching very much. First, he was a gifted person and didn't have the patience to teach ordinary people. Second, he hated naughty kids, especially naughty kids who were in an excited state. For example, the one who was yelling in front of him. Chu Yang walked up to the naughty kid with a bad look, held his head, and said lightly, "This is a school, keep your voice down." Who knew that the naughty kid had a bad temper, and he slapped Chu Yang's hand away, ran behind his father, and made faces at Chu Yang. Chu Yang. The ninja seemed to know who Chu Yang was, and smiled apologetically. "Lord Yang, I'm sorry, my son is not well disciplined, please don't bother with him." Chu Yang asked with a surprised look, "Do you know me? What's your name?" "I'm Sarutobi Sasuke, and this is my son Sarutobi Hiruzen." Sarutobi Sasuke smiled and pushed Sarutobi Hiruzen out, then whispered, "This is the disciple of Lord Hokage, don't you admire him very much? Why don't you say anything?" Sarutobi Hiruzen stared at Chu Yang with wide eyes. Chu Yang also stared at him with wide eyes, and the two looked at each other. Fuck. This naughty kid is actually the third generation. Chu Yang was still in a daze, and the young third generation opposite him said carelessly, "You are the disciple of Lord Hokage? You don't look that good." Chu Yang. Sarutobi Sasuke scratched his head awkwardly and laughed. "Ha ha ha, Lord Yang, I'm sorry, this child probably hasn't woken up yet, and keeps talking nonsense." Chu Yang raised the corner of his mouth, and said with a fake smile, "It doesn't matter, I'll take him in later, he will wake up immediately." Sarutobi Hiruzen seemed to feel the ill intention in Chu Yang's tone, and backed away desperately, hiding behind his father. However, the young and thin boy was still pushed to Chu Yang by his father. "Lord Yang, please take good care of Hiruzen, I have a mission and I'll leave first." After Sarutobi Sasuke gave the instructions, he bowed his head and said to Sarutobi Hiruzen, "Hiruzen, study ninjutsu well, I'll pick you up after school." After that, Sarutobi Sasuke disappeared with a flash body technique. It seems that the mission is indeed very urgent. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked up at Chu Yang, and stiffly showed a flattering smile. Chu Yang also smiled, but in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes, he smiled like a devil. Wow! Sarutobi Hiruzen, whose psychological defenses collapsed, couldn't help but burst into tears. Did I make the future third Hokage cry on the first day of school? Chu Yang slapped his forehead, looking like he had a headache. The start of the school season is very annoying, and the people who are annoyed are not only Chu Yang in the Naruto world, but also Chu Yang in the Harry Potter magic world. Chu Yang in the magic world was born in an orphanage in London. Before going to the Soul Palace, Chu Yang had already received an admission letter from Hogwarts. Chu Yang has a certain talent for magic, but at that time, he was worried that he would not be able to deal with the crisis that would happen in the academy next. It was okay in the past few years. Chu Yang believed that he could get by no matter what, but the problem was that after entering the 4th grade, once the plot of the Goblet of Fire began, it meant that Voldemort would make a comeback. Chu Yang didn't think that he, a wizard apprentice from an orphanage, could survive the war that swept the wizarding world. Rather than taking such a big risk to go to Hogwarts, it would be better to be a muggle and live in peace, but now the situation has taken a turn for the better. His cheat has arrived. With the support of Chu Yang in the other two worlds, Chu Yang's confidence was full, so Chu Yang, whose soul returned to the real world, immediately took out the admission notice hidden under his pillow, page 1, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore. President of the International Confederation of Wizards, First-Class Meritorious Knight of the Order of Merlin, Grand Mage, Chief Mage of the Wisingamat. Dear Mr. Chu Yang. We are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted to study at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Enclosed is a list of required books and equipment. The semester is scheduled to start on September 1st. We will wait for your owl to bring your reply on July 31st. Vice Headmaster, female, Minerva McGonagall. Chu Yang began to write back to Hogwarts, explaining his situation in the orphanage. He needed a teacher or professor from the academy to help him. He couldn't find the way to Diagon Alley alone. The dedicated owl flew to the orphanage almost every day because Chu Yang didn't write back before. It was almost caught by the nuns to make soup for the children. The owl, which received the reply, flapped its wings and flew high, disappearing into the sky in the blink of an eye. As long as it's not Snape, I can accept other professors. Chu Yang didn't hate Snape, but as a student, he would still keep his distance from Snape. Snape really looked like the deans of the teaching department who used canes to beat people in his previous life. It would take some time for Hogwarts to receive his reply and send professors over, so Chu Yang had to save some tuition for himself during this time. How to save? Of course, robbed houses, rob the rich to help the poor. This is London in the 1990s, and the dark corners of the alleys are full of idle hooligans. Chu Yang specifically targets these people. When he is lucky, he can even encounter the scene of the gang's transaction and make a fortune directly. In 2 days, Chu Yang has collected all the tuition fees for the next 7 years. This matter must not be known to Hogwarts. On the surface, Chu Yang has to pretend to be a poor student. On the evening of the 3rd day after replying to the letter, Chu Yang's observation hockey sensed a special breath, so he packed his luggage and tiptoed out of the window. After standing in the yard and waiting for a while, a gentle voice suddenly came from behind Chu Yang. Mr. Chu Yang, I am glad to see that you are prepared in advance. Chu Yang turned around and saw a short and fat witch walking towards him, with fluffy and messy hair, heavy robes, and a pointed hat full of patches. Chu Yang nodded, and then asked, Are you the professor at Hogwarts? The fat witch smiled and said, Hello, Mr. Chu Yang, I am the head of Hufflepuff House at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Professor of Herbology, Pomona Sprout. Chu Yang bowed slightly and replied, Hello, Professor Sprout. Sprout glanced at the orphanage behind Chu Yang and said softly, In the nearly 1,000 years of history of Hogwarts, children born in orphanages rarely have the opportunity to study here. The last one was. I will recommend it tomorrow, brothers, you must follow it. If the trial recommendation doesn't work, there will be no recommendation. Thank you, brothers.